Today is Friday, August 22nd, and this is Yankees Pod. Today we have a very, very, very special guest, a 2009 World Series champion, one of the most electric arms the Yankees have ever had, and a guy who brought pure fire every time he stepped on the mound. Joba Chamberlain, welcome to Yankees Pod.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a rough go with the old Yanks. I got no hair left, so and that should be indicative of kind of what we've been through. But no, it's a fun time of the year, man. With 30, little over 30 games left, and a lot on the line for a lot of teams, especially the Yankees and kind of what they're doing. So yeah, I love this time of year. It's football starting, baseball's getting real serious, so just an absolute fantastic time of the year. So yeah, no, I appreciate you having
Yeah, no, I mean, don't worry, we're going to get to the 2025 New York Yankees a little bit.
me.
Want to ask you a few questions about your career first, though. What was it like? Take us back to the first time you stepped on the mound at Yankee Stadium. What was it like, your nerves, just like the feelings that you had stepping on that mound at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx?
You know what? It actually helped starting on the road, honestly, just to kind of get some nerves out of the way and not like stepping right into it. So yeah, it helped, but then I got to go to the stadium when they were on the road, and so just I think that made it a little bit easier because there wasn't, I was going there just as a fan because I'd never seen it before, and I just remember walking out through the loading dock, like into old Yankee Stadium, and I'm like, whoa, like I've seen this on TV, but like this is real. Like, no, this actually like my feet are on the ground. I remember I sent a picture to my dad. I was like, holy crap, I'm here. So yeah, it's super cool, but it was I was more nervous going out because if you remember at old Yankee Stadium, for people that don't know, we would come in through the back and where Monument Park was cobblestone. So we would have to walk down the stairs from the bullpen and then walk through basically the fans were to our right. But that was like all cobblestone. So I was afraid like my cleat would get caught and I would embarrass myself. Like, so we're like walking on eggshells, right? And so I just didn't want to embarrass myself. But yeah, when you warm up and you just feel the energy of the old stadium, I'm not saying the new stadium didn't have the same energy, but the old stadium was just it was unbelievable, and just being able to obviously close that one down and open a new one, it was super cool, and just the history of it, and all the things that not only from a baseball standpoint, but everything else that it's happened, from concerts to games to religious, like people showing, like it was crazy to be a part of that, and the history that that stadium had.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there was nothing like the old Yankee Stadium. All right, this was a question I had for you. The Jobber rules. Do you
Yep.
think they helped protect your career, or do you think it kind of was the opposite? Do you think it inhibited you a little bit?
Um, I I mean, I guess there's really no analytical to say it saved me because I ended up blowing out anyways. So it's I don't know what it did. I mean, it's obviously one of those things where you're a young kid, you're happy to be in the big leagues, and it's kind of you do what they tell you to do at that point. It wasn't like I had 6, 7 years in the big leagues where I kind of had a leg to stand on to kind of say my, I guess, opinion about it. So it was just, you're 21-year-old kid. You're like, all right, yeah, I'm in the big leagues with the Yankees. Like, I can't really say anything. And I talk about this, fairly often. And it's just the one thing I wish would have just been a little bit more consistency, like the back and forth of like, hey, you're going to start spring training in the bullpen, and then, we're going to move you to starter and then back once you get to innings, or hey, we're going to start you as a starter in spring training and then move you to the bullpen and during the season. So it just was kind of all over the place for a few years. And so, I mean, I don't know. I never had one time long enough as a starter to start every 5 days to really truly genuinely know like a full season of starting every 5 days what that would have done. People have been like, hey, when you started on 5 days, this was your ERA and so on and so forth. And I was kind of the guinea pig, and they let Phil Hughes start, every 5 days after that. And, he ended up going to the All-Star game, and won 15 games, but had almost a 5 ERA, but they let him start every 5 days. So, it's just, it's something that's talked about. It's, and people ask me, well, what do you think they should do? I tell everybody if they, ask my opinion, I go, you're going to have to be honest, whether you have a year, whether you have 5 years. It's like, hey, if you're going to put me in one thing, then that's fine. But keep me there. Don't put me back and forth where, I'm having to change my workout routine, my throwing schedule, because they're completely different dynamics of how you prepare to get ready and to be the best of your ability. So the bouncing back and forth is really tough, not only mentally, but physically on how to train your body.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna ask you about like, do you think that your career would have been different if you were just in the bullpen? I mean, you were unbelievable in that. That first year was like, I mean, that was the best, one of the best runs I've ever seen. That curveball was insane. I mean, every pitch you had was just absolutely insane. I always say I don't need you to speculate because I don't want you to talk badly about the organization, but like I have a feeling that if you were in the bullpen and they gave you a concise role, that it could have been a little bit different because I mean your stuff was better than anybody else's. Truly, it really was that good.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like I kind of knew coming into it what, obviously that first year, what it was going to be, obviously high leverage situations, pitch 1 inning, 1 day off, 2 innings, 2 days off. So knew that. And then after that, it was kind of like, hey, we know you're a starter, but we're going to reduce your innings. And then '09, it was like starting, and then we were able to do so. It was kind of all over the place. I knew in the bullpen kind of what my role was going to be. So that wasn't too terribly bad. It was just kind of hey, we're going to prepare you to start in spring training, but the last 2 weeks, we're going to transition you back to the bullpen. And it's like, well, he's already done that. But, it's different when you're doing it in the minor leagues. And then, because I started in A ball, double A, and triple A, and then got to the big leagues, obviously in the bullpen. But then once you're in the big leagues, it's like, it's just a different realm. So it was just, I could prepare for one in spring training, but the first 4 years or first 3 years, it didn't stay the same. So it was just kind of the back and forth of,
Yeah.
you know, training and how you run and long toss and what have you. And I mean, at the end of the day, they were protecting innings and doing whatever, but I ended up having Tommy John anyway. So did it really work? I mean,
Yeah.
guess
No,
not.
it's
I mean, I
fair.
pitched after Tommy John, but still.
Yeah. No, I know. I feel like sometimes we protect ourselves from ourselves and it hurts in the long run. All right, let's get to some fun stuff. Uh Mariano Rivera, obviously the GOAT closer. Do you have like one fun story about Mariano or something that he taught you, just about preparing or anything like that?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Really it was like because I mean, being in the pen was new to me. And so he was like, "Hey, you know what? You get you get 7 throws out there." He goes, "It doesn't matter what you're doing here." And the one thing, if you ever watched enough Yankee games and watched Mo, like he never rushed. Like he never did anything different. He had his little metal ball that he did his arm swings with. And then if he knew he had the next hitter, he always told us, and he would just be like, "Hey, remember you have 7 to get your delivery here. All you need to do if it's quick is keep your routine and then just let them go. Just make sure your arm's loose. It doesn't matter where they go because you run out and you get pitches to, hone in on your delivery and get your arm slot and whatever. But there's the one thing I always remembered is like if you do get rushed, then don't worry about it because you can still slow it down and get your pitches when you get to the game mound. So that was one thing that I always remembered. And there were times where, it was full blown red alert, like, hey, you have the next hitter, like, boom, we're in trouble. Or, now it becomes a long inning. So, and it was just like, he always was like, read the situation. Don't let the situation read you. And
Yeah.
so it's like, hey, if you have to get up, it's like, hey, you still have this. But then it's like, okay, you got next inning, keep your routine. And then if the inning gets long, just kind of go with the game. Don't let the game go with you. And so that was one thing I always remembered. And then there was always that time of year where Mo would blow like 1 or 2 saves and people would think the world is ending. They're like, oh, he's done, blah, blah, blah. And so I was his catch partner for one year. Um, and he called Harkey over, who's still the bullpen coach to this day, and he was like, Joba, stand in. And I'm like, all right. And obviously you playing catch, and when you play catch with him, his ball's straight. His ball's straight. And then when he actually goes and like Hark was kneeling down catching, and I was standing in the box left-handed and right-handed. And then to sit there and see the way his ball moved, I was like, how does anybody like, because it literally would get to you and then go whoop. And I'm like, there's no like how?
Yeah.
How how do you do it? And I mean, I tried and then it made my slider crappy. So I was like, I'm guess I'll throw this one away. I can't throw it here. And then you see obviously Mo at the All-Star game showing Roy Halladay, God rest his soul, trying to throw a cutter. I'm like, hey, he's already good enough, Mo. Stop trying to show him more stuff. So
Yeah.
no, it was yeah, those two things stand out in like the preparation as far as getting on the mound and getting ready to go. And then that time of year, and it happened every year that I was with him, and I would always stand in, and it just amazed me. And then toward later in his career, he started throwing a two-seamer, and then it's like you're expecting to do this, and then it goes like this. You're just like, all right, man, this is a, I'm nah, I'll just stand here in the box and act like I know what I'm doing. But yeah,
Yeah.
those are two things that stand out for sure.
Nice. What was your favorite moment from the 2009 World Series, Ron?
D, all of it.
Yeah.
No, it's, I mean, the team, the teammates, the guys we brought in, the guys, obviously the core that we had, and Derek and Jorge, Pet, and all those guys, and bringing in C, Tex, AJ, Swish. I mean, there were just so many different personalities, so many different um dynamics and shapes and noises that would just it all came together. I mean, I think we walked off 14 times that year, and just such a fun group to be around. And, you obviously spend so much time with them. I mean, literally during the season, you spend more time with them than you do your own family, really, in essence. So just, it was, somebody had a birthday party, boom. It was, it was everybody getting together. When we were on the road, everybody went to dinner. It was such a great group to be a part of, and everybody played their part. There wasn't just 25 guys. It took a lot of us to win that year, and there were some guys that really stepped up. And just one of those things that was really, it just made it fun to come to the yard. And it never feels like a job. Obviously you're playing baseball for a living. If it feels like a job, then I don't know what you're doing there. But so for me, it was just being able to be you know, in the moment with those guys and just have fun and, get to, celebrate with them. And, because it's a grind from spring training, and we played into November. So, I mean, literally for 10 months, you're grinding. And so it just, to be the last one standing, it's exhausting, but it makes it worth it. And, having your family there, I had my son there, my dad's there, just being able to celebrate with them and everybody else's families. And now, like, the cool part is talking about it. Now our kids, my son's a sophomore in college, and some other guys, their kids are in college. Some are done with college. You're just like, man, we aren't getting any younger, that's for sure. So, but yeah, no, just it was just such a really cool dynamic of a clubhouse, and personalities, and just super fun to go and to celebrate with those guys, because we were all for one goal, and you all knew how hard each other worked, and you had each other's back. And I think that was the coolest thing.
Who partied the hardest after you guys won the World Series?
Oh man, I think everybody. As soon as it was over, it was kind of like, hey, I don't want to see you guys for a while. And the crazy part was, like, during the playoffs, they've already started counting down how many days to spring training, and we're still playing. I mean, it's into November at this point.
Yeah.
And so it was a really weird offseason for me. And I can't speak for all the other guys, but I pitched until the last day of the season. And so it was November 3rd or 4th. I can't remember what it was, somewhere around there. And so you're usually starting to ramp up, like you're working out and doing stuff around that time. And then usually around, you know, week or two later, right before Thanksgiving, you start, getting after it. And it was almost the first of the year, I guess, yeah, a little bit before Christmas is when, like, I really started getting after it. I felt so far behind because you're talking to guys, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get off the bump start of the new year. And I'm like, the fact of even thinking about throwing off a mound right now makes me want to hurl. Like, I felt like I just got done. So it was a really weird off season because the time you're really ramping it up was the time we were kind of just taking that break, that 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what you did personally of your break, while everybody's kind of starting the process of getting ready for spring training again. So yeah, it was interesting, and you
Yeah.
felt like you were far behind, but you really weren't. Because when you go for that long a time and and pitching in the playoffs is a little different than the regular season. They're all 60 feet 6 inches, but there's a little bit more on it when it comes to the playoffs. So you're gassed. I've never believed in out of body experiences, never have. And it was literally game 6, and I'm playing catch, and I've never experienced anything like this, still haven't to this day. But literally, I was staring at myself. Time had stopped. I'm staring at myself, and myself literally was talking, and it goes, "You got one more day to get this done. Otherwise, you're breaking down. Like, you're not going to be able to do it. Like, so get it done." Like, literally, and had a full blown conversation with myself. And people were like, "Yeah, I've had an out of body experience," and that happened, and I was like, it was true because I mean, I was exhausted. Like,
Yeah. People don't
not
understand the grind. People don't understand the grind. Like, as a Yankees fan, just watching the game, covering the game each day, like by June, I'm exhausted from literally
right.
just watching it. So I
Yep.
can't even imagine what it's like being an actual player going through 162. I mean, I don't know. It's incredible. All right. Who was the best smelling teammate and why was it Derek Jeter? No, actually, I'm just joking. But what was it like being a teammate with Derek?
I did make a joke about that. That's when his Cologne Driven came out. I don't know if you remember that. But yeah, I made a joke, and then he got all over my case because I was still a young kid at that point. And I think somebody asked me almost a similar question, and I said some smart aleck remark about that, and then he was like, "Oh, really?" And I think he put like a bottle of Driven in my locker, like just to mess with me. But no, he was great. I mean, he was one of those guys where he wasn't obviously a rah guy, but like he was so smart in how he led the team as far as like, he'd get on you a little bit, but he did it in such a different way that you didn't really know that he was. It would be like he would say something, and then, he'd find the right time to come and, put his arm around you and be like, or just call you over, and when nothing's going on and everybody's kind of just chilling in the locker room and kind of doing their own thing before the game starting. And so you're just so good at reading a situation and reading, like, if you had a bad start. Or I remember one time I got pissed because I think Mark Grudzielanek took me oppo, and I was pissed because right field and all the other stuff, and he kind of jumped on me in the dugout, and then pulled me aside the next day and was just like, "Hey, we all have to hit here." And I was like, "Yeah, I was just frustrated." And he's like, "I get it, trust me, I get it." He goes, "I love that you care and blah blah blah, but he's like, there's a place and a time." And he was so good at that, and reading a situation, and guys to make sure that we were doing it the right way first and foremost, and and how we handled it to make sure that we understood that it wasn't, not necessarily in the words of "that doesn't happen" or whatever, but it's like, hey, there's better ways to handle it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, what an incredible guy. I mean, he's just, you know what? He honestly almost feels like the cool dad. Like you don't want to disappoint him. Like he's just around, so you were working hard in front of him or whatever. All right, let's get to the 2025 New York Yankees. They just lost to Boston last night. I mean, they can't beat the Red Sox or the Blue Jays right now. I think they're 6 and 17 versus those two teams right now. It's really tough. Does this team feel like a contender to you?
They have the opportunity. They've got the guys to do it. Man, it's just when you go on a stretch where it's just I mean, it's a grind anyways, but like you're grinding right now and trying to figure it out of like what's going on. And I mean, I watch every game, and I'm embedded as much of a fan as, I am, like, trying to put myself in the situation. And it's just, I mean, it's tough. You're scoring runs, you're doing things. I mean, obviously there's injuries along the way, but that's baseball, and that's kind of the way, the cookie crumbles, they say. But I mean, it's honestly like the pieces are there. I mean, the way G's hitting the ball, he hasn't looked terrible in the outfield. I mean, he's gotten the balls, he's made the plays that he's needed to. Obviously, we know he's not the outfielder he was 7, 8 years ago, but he's serviceable out there. And I mean, his bat has been unbelievable since he's come off the DL, and you got to keep his bat in there because when he gets to the playoffs, he turns the page too. So let's hopefully he can kind of segue this into and keep staying hot. But it's just errors have killed us. I mean, I think that's the third time we've had 4 errors in a game, and that's just, I mean, it's tough to overcome that, and when we have the starters and obviously loaded up in the bullpen and some of those guys haven't panned out, it's different pitching in New York, and I think some of these guys are coming to understand that how different it really is. um there's more to it than just getting outs, and I think guys are realizing that. And we went through a rough stretch too where we weren't having the starters get through six. They're getting deep into counts, and obviously Max dealing with, blisters. And I try to explain to people, like, they're like, oh, a blister. But when it's on your pitching hand, and like the way we pitch is manipulated baseball, so it's pressure on our fingertips, off the side of our hand, off the finger. Like, so yeah, it sounds stupid, but it definitely affects us in a crazy way. But yeah, I think the pieces are there. McMahon's played a really, really good third base. And anything we knew from the hitting side was going to be a bonus, right? And the bullpen has been the bullpen. It's tough because there's glimpses of them, really, really well, but then it feels like we're holding our breath every time, and
Yeah.
it
I-
it, it that's a crappy feeling as a fan. So like, okay, we're up three, but like,
Even like 2 days ago, they're up. It's 6-3. And no offense to Devin Williams right now, but he's just not doing well in high leverage situations. And I'm screaming at my TV, why is Devin Williams in right now? They had Mark Leiter Jr. They could have went to Mark Leiter. They could
he
have
was
went to
he was up, wasn't he?
yeah, and but
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's a disservice to Devin Williams right now that they're putting him in that situation. I mean, he's just been it's been tough year for him in high leverage situations. And I'm screaming. I know we got the win. They win. I mean, he gets those 3 strikeouts in a row. But like, what, what is like what's going through Boone's head? Does he want to gain his confidence back? Is that what he's trying to do? Like, because I like what Tim Hill was just such an obvious choice, and I don't know if Aaron Boone hates Tim Hill or something, but it just seems like Boone's doing stuff, and it's all the fans are in agreement. Like, we do not want to see Devin Williams in high leverage situations. Nothing personal about it. Like, he's just been kind of bad lately. I'm just like, what are your thoughts on the way that Boone handles the bullpen? And do you think it's like 100% him, or do you think it's like kind of a script that they're going by?
I think it's a little bit of both. I obviously, it's tough if you look at the season as a whole, like what Luke Weaver did to put himself in that position, obviously last year. And then you get a guy like Devin Williams, and you've seen his numbers. I mean, he had what, in 3 or 4 years, he had 26 runs, and then, in half a season he had like 26 runs for the Yankees, which is crazy. Um, and I think there was, it's like they say in basketball, you miss 100 threes, what do? You keep shooting. And
Right.
so I think there was a little bit of that with Devin, and try to get him off the schneid. And he's pitching 205, and then had some really had a good stretch of, like, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks where he had a really, really good stretch. And then it was like, okay, we're kind of back, back on the saddle, right? And then it's like, okay, you make all these moves and you get essentially three closers now, and so it becomes like, okay, who's doing what, when, where, and why. And that's really tough in a bullpen, for you not only to prepare physically, which we always can do, but mentally it's like, hey, now do I start warming up in the third? Do I start stretching in the fourth? So it's a little bit different. As far as, do I think it's Boonham, I think it's probably a little bit of both the front office and him. I think obviously during the game there have been some questionable moves on in my opinion,
Yeah.
as far as certain guys, and that's the thing that we're gonna have. We had, obviously Kyle Peterson on, a couple days ago on my show, and he worked in the booth with Aaron Boone at ESPN, and we were just talking. there always has to be a fall guy when things go bad, right? And it's usually not the player. And so, it's everybody wants Boone's head, and then it goes to Cash, and then it goes to whatever. So there's always going to be that fall guy. And really, has Boone gone out and made a pitch? No. Has he gone out and swung the bat? No. Has he gone out and tried to make a play? No. So therein lies like some of the ways that people deflect. Like, I mean, Volpe's won for like his last 30 something. Like, are we gonna make a change? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
love the kid. Like, it's not like he's not trying,
sure.
but he's hitting 213 right now.
Yeah, he needs days off. No, I agree with you there. I defend him maybe because I'm Italian and, I literally like it might be a little bit of that. I think he still has something in there because we've seen flashes. It's so weird because he's literally become an enigma at this point. He looks like the best. I mean, he had 7 home runs in like 2 weeks after the All-Star break. Then he
Yep.
goes for these through these stretches, and I mean the fielding was bad for a little bit. It just very confusing. But and don't get me wrong, I know it's on the players as well. I just get frustrated with Boone because he just puts guys in situations that like I think like 90% of the fans are all saying like don't go to Devin Williams or like even like when we played the Guardians in the playoffs a few years ago, Clark Schmidt was put in a high leverage situation in the 6th inning, like just random things where you're just like, it just doesn't seem like I don't know where he's coming from sometimes, and that's really the frustrating part. And I agree with you. I'm also like a spoiled Yankees fan. Like if we don't win in 5 years, I want the next guy out, and it's
Right, right.
maybe the manager doesn't matter that much, but then he just does some of these things where I'm just like I don't know. I go a little bit crazy, and I'm not the biggest Boone fan. Like, I actually think he's incredible, like communicating and like great with the media, and I think that's what the Yankees love about him. But as far as managing, I do think that like I think Alex Cora is just a better manager than Aaron Boone, and I don't know if I think he's just like too much of a players manager, and like I don't think that I think the players are just like friendly with him, and they're not like I don't think they're afraid of him, and like it shows up like the sloppy errors and the base running. I don't think that would happen like under like Girardi, but like Girardi wasn't great with the media, so it's I don't know. I just that's how I feel about Aaron Boone. I don't. It doesn't matter what I think. Obviously, what you think matters a lot more than what I think. Um, is there anyone on the current roster that reminds you of your like energy out of the bullpen or anything?
I mean, Bednar a little bit.
Okay.
I've always liked him too. Like, and got to like I watched his brother pitch in the College World Series and do some things, and I kind of followed him, and so that's kind of how I got onto him, and late bloomer, but yeah, I like his energy. Just it's different. Pittsburgh's a little bit different than New York,
Yeah,
so and I think he's learning that. But I love his stuff. I love the way he attacks guys. He goes about his business and unapologetic, and I like the way he attacks, and has a little bit of bulldog in him, and hopefully that translates, and they're all gonna give up some runs here and there, but
sure.
I like the way he goes about his business.
Love it. All right, a few more questions. All right, so this one was so Aaron, the whole like Aaron Judge, we don't know if his arm's going to be okay the rest of the season, and I'm a big proponent of having Giancarlo and Judge play as many games as possible. So I said that if Judge can't play right field, should we try him out at first base? How hard is it to play first base? Like Aaron Judge is an athlete. Am I crazy for thinking that Aaron Judge can play first base?
No, I mean, obviously, I've never played first base in the big league. I mean, I've caught throws
Right.
in BP, but I mean, I guess I look at it. It's a very similar situation as Bryce Harper. Kind of in the same, I guess, realm. I mean, maybe not exactly the same injury, but he went from playing outfield to playing first base, and he does a very good job at first base. They're both athletes. I think he could do it. I don't know if he wants to. Because I mean, he's a great outfielder. One part of the game that I think kind of gets overlooked because he's so good at the plate, and he continues to get better at the plate with discipline and swing and miss and all the other stuff, the things that, he strikes out too much and all that. So, he continues to get better at his age. So it may be something on him too, where, he still feels like he has something left. But if he can be on the field and have G on the field as well right now, you got to do it. And I understand you have to give Stan rest. I totally get that because you want him healthy, and we've obviously seen his previous stuff where injuries have been a big part of it. But I think just right now, especially with 30 games, if you can get him two or three on and then one off, I think that could obviously be good for him. Obviously, we're not trainers or doctors or in the clubhouse every day, so we don't really know. You get to this time of the year, and if you feel healthy, something's wrong. So I just think you have to get those guys both. I don't think you're crazy out of pocket to think that he can't play first. He's athletic enough. I mean, playing center and right is two completely different positions as well. I mean, yes, it's the outfield, but the way the ball moves is completely different, and he made a great adjustment doing that. So I don't think it would be hard for him to learn first base. I mean, there's been some really good first basemen in Yankee lore that could probably help him out a little bit. So,
And I always said, like, if David Ortiz can play first base, Aaron Judge can play first base.
oh, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? Like, maybe it's not going to be the best at what, but I have people on Twitter. Yankees Twitter is absolutely insane. But people
Oh,
are
it's,
like, "This
it's
isn't
awesome.
MLB the Show," and I'm like, I feel like one of the most athletic guys in baseball can do that. All right, two more questions. What do you think about Commissioner Manfred's comments on realignment and expansion? Would having the Yankees and Mets in the same division, and he didn't say it, but would that make it better or worse for baseball if the Yankees and Mets were in the same division?
I think if you're just looking at directly at that um, one particular instance, I think, yeah, it adds value to it, but there's a lot more rivalries in the game of baseball than just that, and I'm a Braves fan because TBS as a kid living in Nebraska, I got to watch them every day. So, and then you look at old rivalries, and yeah, it's going to be a couple times a year instead of, 8 to 12. I think this would be like 14 times or whatever. So, I mean, it's then you got other teams that went from the AL to the NL, like the Brewers. I think in like '98 they switched over from the AL to the NL. So then you bring back rivalries. Um, I'm not a huge proponent of it. I get it from a travel standpoint, um, kind of where he's headed, but realistically, I don't think a lot of players. I never, I guess complained about it because we travel a little bit different than everybody else. It's not like it's a normal travel day like when you're going on vacation where maybe you have a layover or something like that. Like the way we travel isn't bad by any means. So I don't think it's from that perspective. I'm not a huge proponent of it. I get it would create some new rivalries, but it would also diminish a lot of them too. That I think the game is changing a lot. Let's keep certain parts of the game, true to what it has been. And then adding teams, maybe. Um, there's obviously some great cities that could support it. But then also I heard along those lines too, Jimmy, is it's okay. So then now, because it's been 60, 70 years that we went to 162 games, then, do you look at the schedule? Do we go down to 154? Does that change the dynamic of the game too? So there's a lot of moving pieces. Obviously, it's not going to get done next year. I think it's down the road, and especially if the expansion teams and what have you. I mean, obviously, they're going to have to wait anyways until um, the A's move, and then you kind of see how that's going to work. And
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
what
with,
they're
with
trying. I think
with
what they're
Tampa
trying to
too, yeah,
do is do 8 divisions, 4 teams, kind of like the NFL, so where you get 32
right.
teams. But it's kind of tough because like some of these teams right now are aren't spending money. They're only looking at the bottom dollar, and fans are upset. Like, why are you going to add another team when like the Cincinnati Reds aren't spending that much money or whatever? So yeah, it gets a little vague. All right, last question. I need to get you out of here.
For sure.
Again, so you're a recurring guest. So every single time we ask you to come on the podcast, you have to. But well, don't worry, we won't do it too often. As someone who's been through it, what message would you want to send to Yankees fans who are torn between frustration and hope?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Man, I got a really good follower that he's leaning on Tums a lot right now. No, but oh man, it's tough. You're not far away. And the 30 games a lot. I think what is it, 33 games left, I think is what it is, something like that. A lot can happen. You go on a streak and you get hot at the right time. I wouldn't press the panic button yet. I mean, let's leave the case on, that red button. Let's leave the case on. This is deal or no deal. Let's think about it like that. Let's not lift the case off yet. It's sitting there, but let's get through August. You got basically, a little bit over a week, finish the month out strong, and then anything can happen in September. And get hot at the right time and see what happens. But I get the frustration. And patience is running very thin, and I understand that. Um, I just shake my head sometimes when I'm watching, and I'm like, I'm still watching. Like what? Like, all right, and don't say anything, don't jinx it, whatever. We're all superstitious in our own ways, so yeah, I wouldn't press the panic button yet. And that thin line between patience and frustration, it's getting close. They're not so far apart. So I get it. It's you want to flip over to now I'm not patient and now I'm just full blown frustrated and want to poke my eyes out. So don't hit it yet. Give it about a week, 10 days, and then see where everything lies, and then we can reassess this beginning of September.
Awesome. Java, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. We'll have you
You got
back
it.
on in a couple months, maybe when the
Yep.
Yankees are making that postseason run. And
Fingers
follow
crossed.
Jabba on Twitter, honestly, and listen to his podcast. Does amazing job over there. And it's funny to say because you're such a great Yankee, but you're a fan just like us when
For
following you,
sure.
and
For
you
sure.
feel it. So it's really great. And again, appreciate you have coming on.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for having me.